30 minutes away, going to Virginia Tech. And there's a lot of families in our area who have jobs at Virginia Tech and Radford University who their adult family members have low-income positions at the university, housekeeping, food service, building and grounds. They don't get paid very much. And a big problem for them is child care. So I'm wondering how that may be addressed. And I was glad to hear you mention it. So that's where I'm going.
I'm Michael Brickler, and I'm in the forming stages of an intentional community in Eagle Rock. It's about 2 hours on the other side of Roanoke from here. And I want to find out about starting businesses for that intentional community and starting businesses that make a bridge to the surrounding community.
My name is Donna Fernando, and I live in Venezuela, Caracas, Venezuela. And I'm director of the Property Research Institute of Venezuela that works with cooperatives. We want to empower cooperatives, and I'm very interested in starting comic books and posters for cooperatives that are on their walls and they can be easily.
My name is Jack Strasberg, and I'm from southwestern Oregon, in San Diego and Tucson. And I'm doing a project, or a rather large project, is building a new paradigm. And basically it's something similar to the New World thing. It's building a paradigm that's alternative to the existing paradigm in the U.S. but in the planet as a whole. And basically, how to make that work, of course, is going to have to do a lot of different things that we would call jobs or businesses. And I would like to have as much of that as possible, the cottage industry design around collectives and cooperatives.
I'm Robin Henson. I talked yesterday. I'm an economics professor. I'm mainly interested in what these sorts of things tell about humans and human behavior. I'm curious to see how these things work.
J.P. Beck. I live in Williamsburg, Virginia. I don't know a lot about co-ops at all. It's the first time I really heard about them yesterday. There are a lot of wealthy people that live around my area. Speak to them about
I'm Vivian, and I'm from Roanoke. I just was looking at the schedule and everything and talking to my son-in-law a couple days ago, who, as I told a couple people, he wanted to be in the newspaper since he was 14, so he hung out in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and they hired him. And anyway, he went on with his degree, and he was an investigative reporter, run all kinds of awards. And then that paper, the owner died, and then another, long story short, he went to another newspaper in Florida. That one was kind of the one. And then he went to Norfolk, and that owner died. The children inherited the Weather Channel, and I think they sold it to Price's Film, but they sold off the paper a little at a time. And then I was talking to him, and he said, the Fredericksburg paper, they're selling the building. We're going to go into a storefront. And so I just was wondering if there's somehow, I just want to find out about funding and maybe pass some information along. It just seems like such a waste.
I'm Bob Blaine. I'm from Edwardsville, Illinois. I've taught at Southern Illinois University for a long time. I'm retired. That means I have no tires. I want to see our money supply based upon citizenship, not debt. And I want it denominated in hours. Those are two defects in our present money system, and I want to see both of them corrected as soon as possible.
I'm Donna McCary. I live up in Manassas, Virginia, and I'm founder director of what we call Women of Wisdom, and started with 9 people in '08, now there's over 200 of us. And we're really starting to implement more ways of serving one another and extending that out from ourselves to the world. So I'm real interested in hearing what you have to say, tools you might be able to use.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Phillips. I'm from Manassas, Virginia, too.
Cool.
I have a company making natural body care products and teaching nutrition to people, but I want to find different ways of running a business because all I really know is the businesses that I worked for before and how they work, and I know they don't work very well. Not to serve all people, so I'm just trying to get information to figure out how that works.
Hello, my name is Exxon Spivey. I am from Washington, D.C. I work actually presently for a very huge corporation, but at the same time I'm running my own business. So I'm also, and it's more into health and well-being, because I believe everything does start with you. So if you are not healthy, if you're not thinking properly for your own well-being, then you can really make a change. So I am also very interested in how we can connect, unite, and create a little bit of a different flow with regard to businesses, exchanging services instead of, dollar. And I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about crops and how businesses can unite in a different way than we've seen in the past.
What was your name again?
Oksana? So I'm saying
Okay, so, are you filming?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Ajowa, and so I've done, some work for the last 10 years or so in Crawford, Washington. I also helped found a housing cooperative in Washington, D.C. called the Ajowa Intentional Community. It's in, Columbia Heights. It was in between 2 metro stops, but I'm blanking on the name of them right now, right on 14th Street. Columbia Heights and the one on East Street. Anyway, so I have some experience working with people, and Donna also has some experience, and feel free to comment at any time and put some background on the international co-op experiences in some of the businesses. And so what I would like to do is pass this list around and put your name, your email address. And so I will mail out some appropriate sources that you can use to get more information. And so in terms of our co-ops, it's different from our traditional businesses because, in our traditional businesses, money rules. Whoever has the money is to call all the shots. But in the co-op, it's different. The members call the shots. The members put in what they call a share. You start a business and say it takes, just for simplicity, $1,000 to get that business off. You have 10 people. So each person brings in $100. That's their share of that business. And so by virtue of that membership, you get to decide how that business is run, who is involved in that business, everything about that business. And so that's one basic difference. The people who are members of the business own the business. Now there are different types of co-ops. There are, of course, worker co-ops are businesses that you come together, put your money in, and you decide how things are run, how the money is going to be used, those kinds of things. There are consumer co-ops, and they could include grocery stores or any kind of businesses where you're selling to the public. And so you own a share, but that could get it's kind of complicated because you have in a grocery co-op, you might be a member, but you also may have employees. And so you have some consumer co-ops that are also local co-ops.
some of the co-ops that are consumer are REI, you know, an outdoor store. And so you become a member, and after the profits are determined, you might get a check back, you know, it might not be a lot, maybe $10 or $25 or $2,000 based on how the profits are calculated. There are housing co-ops. In DC, there's always a problem with affordable housing because, you know, the values are really sky high. And so I have a friend who saw where gentrification was happening. You know, the neighborhood is really bad, people come in with money, the property taxes go high. And so after a while, people can't afford to live there. And so she had this idea to save housing for people who are activists so that you can afford to live in the city, continue to live in the city. And so we organized a housing co-op by getting the District of Columbia to sell us 6 houses, row houses, and we got a nonprofit developer together, and they refurbished it. We got loans from the DC Government Foundation. They gave us like $1.5 million. It was a loan, actually. And so we were able to develop those homes, and we made 15 units. And we live in Columbia Heights. Well, we were living in Columbia. I mean, the co-op's still there. I'm not a member anymore. But prime, you know, rent was like $1,200 for 1 bedroom. And I was living in an apartment a little further up, and I was paying like $800 for rent. When I moved into the co-op, my fee was like $500. And a lot of us, you know, took those savings and said, okay, we have savings, and so what are we going to do with that money? So some people went back to school, you know, some people, you know, used it, you know, other ways to develop themselves. And so, you know, it's like $300 a month that we could do other things with. So, you know, you have housing co-ops. There are electrical co-ops, like if you live in a rural area and you don't have, you know, maybe sewage or electricity, you know, people get together and they purchase those services and they bring that equipment in. So there's, you know, basically, you can co-op anything. People co-op funeral services, you know, you know, we mentioned the child care. There are a lot of places where people don't have child care, and they can do it cheaply, free, you know, people volunteer, and like keep people's kids for free. You know, it's like an exchange, you know, like the time hours, the time dollars. So there are different types of co-ops, and you could just think of anything that you want to do and co-op. There's, you know, probably somebody already doing it.
Funeral service in Venezuela. 30,000 members, they pay 30 cents a month, and that covers them and 8 members of their families. And if anyone dies, funeral's all covered. You don't pay anything. And the coffin, you can cremate, you can bury, but the whole funeral service, everything, buried, you know, and the employees care, you know, and they're all getting paid, so you don't have to pay them any extra. And many poor families go into a lot of debt when somebody dies in their family, and they want to, you know, have to pay for their grandmother's funeral, but they can't afford it. So this is it's kind of like an insurance in a way, but it's wonderful.
It's a very good concrete example of the kind of things that we could do and make a difference. You know, we get trapped in this way society is organized, and we think we have to have money in order to do things. You know, if we don't have, you know, $6,000 or $7,000 to bury somebody, it's probably more than that now. You know, we feel like we don't exist, or we don't, you know, we're not people, we're not human, if we don't have money to do things. So think of co-ops as a way to do things that you normally wouldn't do or couldn't do. Like even start your business. It's a lot for one person to start a business. But if you have 2 or 3 people, or 4 or 5, that you really trust and really is feeling the vision that you have, then you can do this together. And it's not so much of a burden economically, financially, or otherwise for your business. And so, you know, you can think about it as a job creation service in your community. Or if you have a dream, you know, you want to set up an intention for the community. You know, make that a co-op effort. You know, you have to be careful, like if you have a land or you as an individual own the property, you have to, you know, get what is worth for you out of that situation and calculating, you know, the ownership, the labor, all of that kind of stuff. You have to kind of work on that because that could be a problem later on. There's been problems with people who start a co-op, say you start a co-op and then 10 years in, and that you put a lot in. Time, you may have put in some property, and then, you know, you've been in it for 10 years, and then the new people come in, and say you start, you made $1,000 share contribution, and the new people come in, and so they don't really, there's not an equal commitment, because you put in all this time and property or whatever, and then the new people come in, and then there's that tension between, oh, well, I've been here 2 years, and I've, you know, done a lot of stuff, and new people come in, maybe they feel like they want the same kind of rights. And, you know, there's arguments to be made on both sides here, but you have to be able to, you know, like, work through that. A good idea is, like, if you have it, consult a lawyer. And we're going to talk a little bit about structure, how to structure a co-op. There are many, many ways you can structure a co-op. You know, if it's small enough, say 10 or 15 people, and it doesn't even have to be that many, 2 or 3 people who start a co-op. You could have it where everybody makes all the decisions. Like you know, one person, one vote, everybody makes all the decisions. There is a co-op in San Francisco called Rainbow Co-op, and they are structured by the community system. There are committees like for the dairy department, the produce department. They even have a committee to work on issues of diversity and multiculturalism. All kinds of committees, and so each department is responsible for their own, how things work there. And they have representatives from each committee to form a council, and they make overall decisions. If you're big enough, you can actually have a board, or you can hire a manager. There's a co-op in New York, Corporate Home Care Associates, and they have a board and a member, so that people who are members of the co-op vote for the board. And so that way you have that say-so in the co-op. Some co-ops are even hierarchical. It's not like, you know, everybody has a say-so, but you have it set up so that committee, that executive committee, answers to the members of the co-op. So that's one thing you really want to look at is your governance. But more than anything, the people that you choose in a co-op is your key resource. You know, in Mondragon, Spain, there's a cooperative complex, and they believe that people are more important than money. That the people, money is subordinate to capital. That's one of their cooperative principles. Money is subordinate to capital. Think about that. Just because you have money, you don't. In a co-op, that's not the way things work anyway. But they go a little step further and say, if there's a question of money versus people, people will always win. And they have done this, like if there's an economic problem with a particular co-op, they don't just fire everybody and say, oh, you know, we laid off, you know, we can't do anything. But they figure out a way to retrain, take some people and put them in another job, in another co-op, or they reduce the hours of everybody who's employed so that they can keep the co-op open and people can still have some kind of income. So The people are more important. In this society, it's money and profits. One of the differences is there can be a business and it could be making money, but the board of the shareholders, they invested in that co-op with the idea or the hope that they're going to make money. And so it might be making 3% profit, but they want 10% profit. And so they might make a decision to close that down because it's not making the kind of money that they want. And so that's the difference in a traditional business and a cooperative business. So they're like 7 principles that co-op operate on. One is voluntary and open membership. Anybody can be a member of the co-op. You know, it's like non-discrimination. And so some people feel like that's it's a good idea. But, again, getting back to the people, you really want to make sure that the people that you get in a co-op are people that share your values, your mission, your work ethic, your principles, just really get to know them, hang out with them. Because once they get in, it's hard to get them out. And then they can disrupt and demoralize everything that you have going. In meetings, you will hate to go to the meetings because this person is, they're individualistic mindsets. And it's hard to change that because there's so much support in the society for being the individual, not caring about people. And so in Ajowa Baker, we would ask people, have you had any kind of experience doing anything cooperatively, living, working, anything? And we would try to weed out. And people will say anything to get cheap housing, get to be a part of your co-op. And so what we decided we had to do was set up a probationary period. First of all, have education. That's another principle, education, cooperative, educate people, education and training. And so you will find that you have to kind of limit, you have to be very careful without being discriminatory. You have your goals, you have your mission. And so if people don't meet your mission, don't let them in. No matter how you trust them. Looking back, I think Ajowa Baker would have been more successful if we had just, it's still successful. I left after about 8 years. I left because I just got tired of, dealing with the struggle. People who didn't want to pay their monthly charges for housing. You got people, there's always going to be some freeloaders. And then there were divisions between people about, you're being like a capitalist by requiring people to pay. Well, you can't live anywhere in the world here for free that we know of. You gotta pay something or do some work or do something to contribute. But you will have people like that. So you have to, if I can say anything, any one thing is that you have to vet your people. And I hope I don't sound like I'm being elitist or anything, but in the long run, it is in your best interest to know exactly who you're dealing with. How people hold up under stress. Will they have enough confidence to speak up if they see something that they don't like? Set up a training and require people to go through it. And that way you weed out the people who don't have the stamina to attend a 12-week program, to attend meetings and be required to talk. A lot of us are shy. And so maybe you don't talk in front of people, but talk one-on-one. Everyone should be required to have an opinion in your meetings. Because the person who's silent, there's 2 reasons for that. May have some really, really good ideas, but they are, shy about talking about it in public. So you kind of work with that person. And the other thing is, if they're silent and they disagree, they will sabotage you in the end. They will sabotage you. So you have to, and that's getting back to structure, figure out how you want to have decision making. Is that going to be consensus, or modified consensus, or majority rules? Majority rule really is not a good idea because, that 2 people or that 5 people who disagree or vote against you, they can look behind your back and, not do what they're supposed to do because they don't agree with the decision. And so it can cause a problem. So what's better is to try to create consensus. You let the minority have a say-so and put out their disagreements. I don't like this because, and you give it full air and you come to some kind of compromise. And so once people feel like they have gotten their position out, you've heard them, and that we've compromised, they're more likely to support the organization. And so there's different forms. You could do have a modified, where people have the right to block any decision until you go forward. And so that's one of the criticisms of cooperatives. Some people hate the meetings. You got a long meeting all the time. You got to have these discussions and stuff. And so some people say co-ops never get anything done. You got to have these meetings. But it's like a long-term investment. Once you get people involved in a co-op, they learn how to be leaders. They learn how to deal with conflict. They're more patient. So you work with people, and if you do this right, you will have some really good people in the end. So it takes a lot of time in the beginning, but it's an investment. You'll have great people to do that. So to get back, so voluntary and open membership, but be careful. So like one person, one vote, basically. Just because you have money doesn't mean you get to have any more power than somebody who doesn't. And so you have to be even careful about that, making sure, because we've been taught in the society that if you got money and power, you're special, and you're supposed to, have a little bit more control. But that doesn't work in a co-op, and so you want to weed those people out too. And people have set up co-ops in a way, because that's one of the problems with the co-op is funding. And so some people have set up what they call like new generation co-ops, and so people with money can participate. But you have to be really careful. Like Equal Exchange is a co-op in the Boston area. And so they have different types of membership, so that you could be a member and a voting member, but you can also be a member that supports financially, but you have no votes. And people do this. Churches mainly, they support because they wanted to support farmers, coffee farmers in other places. And so they would, buy shares. They would put their money in, because their mission was to help support these folks. They would put their money in, and they would not vote. They didn't really want to control, they just wanted to help. So you can do stuff like that. You can actually, in your community, sell memberships, but you have to be careful because this is securities law. This is why a lawyer is very important. You don't want to get in trouble with the SEC, Securities Commission. But you can actually sell community shares, like $1 membership. And, if you sell membership to, 500 people in your community, and you can charge $1 or $10 a month, or, whatever fee you come up with the understanding that they're not going to make profit. It's a membership fee. We're going to use it to help the community. And so that could be seed money for your co-op, and you do different things with it. But you really, really do have to be careful because FCC could come after you for fraud. Like you misled the people. They put their money in here and they thought they were going to get profit, and now you're not going to get no profit. So a lawyer is very, very key. them maybe have not had experience running a business or doing anything, and so, or especially being cooperative. So you have to have education for your members on how to do, like, there's education about the business itself, whatever that industry you're going in, and then there's education about governments and co-ops and, you know, those kind of things. All kinds of education and training. So that's one principle that co-ops really operate under, is that education is key. The other principle is concern for community. One of the things I love about the co-ops is when I first met them is that they really do concrete things for the community. Like Collective Copies in Massachusetts gives 10% of their profits back to the community through their print shop. So they might print flyers for different groups, you know, just do books and all kinds of stuff back to the community. There's a co-op in Portland that, you know, would give food back to the community, you know, let the community use their space. Rainbow Groceries has like a green roof so that their carbon footprint is not as big. So there's like different ways that you can, you know, set things up so that you participate in your community, you give back to your community. Let's see. I don't know. I probably missed a couple of those principles, but we'll get back to those. In fact, I should probably list those for you. So, you know, you got those corporate principles, and as I mentioned, Mondragon includes the principle of capital producing workers. And another thing about Mondragon that's really important is that they believe in collective management. I took a trip over in 2011. It was just really wonderful to see how their factory, appliance factory, Fagoa, was organized. They were like cells of people, like say 7 to 10 people. And so they decided how they organized their workspace. They decided, like, when somebody wanted to take off, they had to go through this committee, that cell, and so you had to like fill in for that person. Quality, they would test the equipment to make sure it was working, and they just like manage their space. And the workers in this country don't have that kind of experience, or there's not that understanding. We're used to managers telling us what to do, even though you've been in the job for 25 years or so, and you know how to do things much better. Some manager who maybe just got out of school and they've learned the management principles. I'm not anti-school, but they, you know, kind of tell you what to do, and you know, so your experience is not really counted. So, do you have a question?
Yeah, I guess about how you put together a co-op, as far as, are you gonna get into that?
Oh, yeah. You mean like where you find the people?
Well, how you go through the technical aspects of the business aspects to become a legal co-op.
Okay, so you have to check your state. Every state has different laws. DC's co-op laws are very antique, and they were mainly built around housing co-ops. I don't remember about Virginia, but I don't think Virginia had co-op laws.
Yeah.
They don't?
I was gonna ask it from an attorney, and I just started looking into this, so I was hoping you might know in Virginia what the best form is, because no, we don't have a co-op law. I've been told either it's gotta be an LLC, or, in the case of a housing co-op, possibly a land trust. I was hoping maybe you would know, or just steer me if you don't know about Virginia.
Well, yeah, I think the last time I looked, Virginia did not have the laws, and so what you could do is to set up what they call a foreign corporation. And what that means is that you could be a LLC in Virginia, and you can just organize yourself. It shows how you organize, how you operate. You operate in documents. So you can operate as a cooperative. but still be an LLC, you know, like a partnership, and, you know, still operate like a co-op.
But you're saying which state?
Limited liability corporation.
Jim Johnson was a Twin Oaks, yeah, Jim was saying that's probably your only bet, but you raised another possibility. Are you saying I could set up a co-op in, like the way corporations run to Delaware and then?
Yes.
And then I
Delaware
could
is a good
domesticate it in Virginia?
Yeah, Delaware's a good state
Really?
to do it, because
That I
they're,
did not know.
yeah, they're very good, because they have really liberal laws.
What's the best, if I were to do that, what's the best state for co-ops?
Well, Massachusetts,
Okay,
I believe New York, of course, California. When we set up the U.S. Federation, we had to go through a lot of problems because of the name U.S., and so they were like, we don't know whether you're government. So we had to have a lot of struggle, but now California is educated around co-ops. And actually, this is something I've been thinking about doing a book, because there is no, well, maybe now. I think there is a group in New York, a group of lawyers, and I'll put that on the list of resources, who have looked at every state.
well, that would be great.
Yeah, and talk about those states. But I know Massachusetts has good co-op law. New York, and California. There might be another one, but you know that's something that the U.S. Federation is working on, and some lawyers is finding, you know, the best places to do the co-op stuff. Now, the only drawback to organizing as a foreign corporation is that sometimes you have to pay taxes in both those places. So you want to look at that too, and just look at the laws and see, you know, what they do, what they may require. You know, DC was not very good, you know, because we were looking at setting up a co-op in DC, and we decided not to, a foreign co-op, not to do it because, you know, the taxes and stuff like that. So, but the thing is, you can still set it up in your state if you don't have co-op law, and you can operate as a co-op, and, you know, get around it that way.
And use the LLC.
Yeah.
Is that what you do in Washington DC?
We don't have a co-op set up per se, but that is an American University, and that's another thing. American University suggested that we set up as an LLC and just operate as a co-op. And so wherever you live, check the universities, because they often have legal clinics. They may have one here in Virginia, I can't remember. Is George Mason here?
Yeah.
Virginia?
Masons in Virginia?
Yeah, check with George Mason. They may have, like, their legal folks, a clinic that can help you for free. Law students, you know, come in and they look at what you want to do. They research all the laws for you, and they will, you know, draft stuff. They talk to you and they'll draft the stuff for you, and then help you set it up. All you have to do is come up with the money to file, you know, incorporation papers. So that's a resource. And there are a couple of lawyers who are in the movement who are barred in different states, and so they might be able to help you.
What would be the website that we would go to for assistance in finding out the technical how-to on legal? Is Dawn or your website, or which?
The U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperative has some information, but I don't know if they have, that's a good question, if they have that set up in that way. I don't think anybody has done that yet. But I could check with some of the lawyers.
So helpful.
Yeah.
We got that organized, because there's many people like me and this gentleman who would like to do it. And I personally think they're purposely making it hard.
Oh, yeah.
And the states are
Yeah.
purposely not passing co-op statutes to
Absolutely.
prevent this.
That's right.
And then we have to fall back on the LLCs, which aren't quite right.
Right, right. The U.S. Federation also has like articles of incorporation. They have examples of other people, other co-ops,
Yeah.
all their documents, so you can just go and pick it up and you know, change whatever.
Perfect.
You know, we're operating on a worldwide basis, and so I'm wondering if there are countries that are more favorable for co-op laws for supporting cooperatives, and also whether in creating a cooperative, if maybe that cooperative needs to register in each of several countries that are very supportive or something.
Yeah, I don't know about the international law, but I know like England has a lot of co-ops. Spain, Italy, France has some, but I'm not sure, you know, how much as it relates to those. But they're like leading, in Canada, are leading the world in the co-op stuff. There's a International Cooperative Alliance, ICA, co-op, I believe.
International
Cooperative Alliance.
Cooperative Alliance.
Yeah, you can go
That
there,
helps.
and they have all and that includes worker co-ops. The International Worker Co-op Group is called CICOPA. CICOPA, and that's CICOPA. That, I forget what that stands for, it's like Spanish, I believe. And, you know, you can find information there, and they would have all the information about international.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting with credit unions, they're a little bit, credit union is a financial co-op. You know, you have to have your $5 shares to join, so that makes you a member, you get to vote on policy and stuff. So it's a international, a co-op as well. Has a little bit different rules and stuff, because, you know, you have to follow the money rules around and stuff. So, that is something that you like, there's specific credit union organizations that I will send as well too. So yeah, your legal structure is very, very important. You want to talk to a lawyer, especially like if you buy space. You know, before you sign a contract, you want to have a lawyer look at everything, because there's some predatory people out here, and they will, you know, take half of your profits and stuff like that. So it's really important.
Is there any organization that recommends lawyers that knows about co-ops?
No, that's something that we're working on. We have a group of lawyers that are organized. In fact, they had a conference last year, and I don't know exactly what came out of that, and I can check. But we're just getting to that point where we're that organized. It's really interesting because the co-op movement was under the radar until like 2008, when the economy kind of tanked, and it just took off. A lot more people became interested in it. And so it was like a poor movement, you know? And now it's just getting up there. So a lot of these resources aren't as readily available now, but you know, it's changing now. And so I just want to mention too, that if you really want to like hook up with people who are in the worker co-op movement, there's a conference taking place in Worcester, Massachusetts, July 10th through 12th, at Clark University. And so, you know, pretty cheaply, you can go to east.usworker.co-op to get information about it. east.usworker.co-op, C-O-O-P. They have a conference going on for 2 days, and so they give you, a lot of these lawyers will be there, so they give you all the basics, the ABCs of setting up co-op, to the advanced stuff, you know, July 10th through the 12th.
Where is it gonna be held?
Worcester, Massachusetts, W-O-R-C-E-S-T-E-R. Always have to think about that pronunciation. Yeah, and so that's a good place to hook up with a lot of these professionals, the lawyers in particular, and people who help, the co-op developers who help people set up co-ops out there. And so you can, and then the great thing about going to these conferences is that you can meet people in your industry who are already doing stuff and who've been in the co-op for 45 years, and they can tell you, you know, don't make this mistake, we've already tried that. So that's a really good thing. So we talked about people, we talked about your structure. Human resources is a very good thing. You always want to be transparent with everything. You know, in businesses, we're kind of taught to keep it secret, especially if we're the one bringing in the money. Keep things secret, but you want to have your books open. You want to be transparent about grievance procedures. all the personnel stuff, you know, some things you have to keep secret because it's people's private business. But, you know, as much as you can, you want to be open about that kind of stuff, because it promotes loyalty. When people feel like you're hiding things, they clam up and they, you know, go revert back to the individualistic thing. I have to watch out for myself and only trust myself. And so you have to really work for that kind of thing. And so think of marketing too. When you set up a co-op, that's a really big marketing advantage. Put that out in everything. We are a co-op, especially if you're a worker co-op. People really like supporting worker co-ops or people who are, you know, ecologically, you know, minded. So use that as part of your marketing, because people are going to support you just on that, you know, because it's not the traditional business. So use that, and so you have to remember your business principles. You know, organize stuff in a way that is economic. You know, you don't want to be wasteful. You want to get the best bang for your buck. Those kind of things. Any questions about specific things, specific areas? Like you talked about, you wanted to talk about money and how people can use money, the microcurrency, to help you get your co-op started. Now, one problem with that is the IRS will want to tax co-ops, have a work, what do we call it, work equity, sweat equity policy, where you can come in and you can work for part of the money. But that can be tricky too, because the IRS will then want to tax that. So that's why lawyers really, really key. You don't want to do anything without talking to a lawyer, because you don't want to get, you know, all that work, you know, go down the drain. So fundraising is another thing. So there's a group called kiva.org, KIVA.org, and it's a site where people can invest in different projects. And there are people who are also doing crowdfunding for co-ops. So, you know, use social media as a way. Okay, we're in a neighborhood and we want to set up child care center. And we need, you know, $5,000 to get it started, to rent the building, to do the publicity, to buy insurance for the building. You have to think about all those kind of things. You know, get a book about starting a business, because you can really get taken to the cleaner, especially if you sign a lease that you always read your contract. Don't trust anything. Especially somebody who's not co-op minded and they're out just to make money, because they can have you sign a lease that, you know, gives them part of your profits, and you don't want to do that. Especially somebody who's, you know, not involved in your movement. Oh yeah, so you want to do marketing. You want to choose a project that's viable. You know, like I would suggest that, you know, if you don't know what you want to do, but you know you want to do something, go back to your community and see what's needed there. You know, like you said, childcare. There's some communities that don't have adult daycare, or there's a need to take care of seniors, children, after school stuff, social, maybe a coffee house, you know, maybe you live in a small town and there's not anything to do. Well, you can set up a little shop, you know, serving coffee and sandwiches and invite musicians to come in and, you know, put some games around. They did that in DC. It was really successful. So, you know, just look around and see what your community needs, and, you know, try to get people who are volunteer and work, you know, and then, you know, kind of talk about how you want to reimburse each other and what the expenses are. And I also want to encourage the grandmothers and grandfathers in here, and or mothers, to get your children involved. I always say your family is your first co-op. You have to learn to live together, you know. who's gonna wash the dishes, who's gonna pick out the garbage, you know, who gets the bathroom what time. So you have to work together. And so you want to teach kids early, you know, like, you know, you used to talk about the lemonade stand and all that stuff that young people used to do. But you might want to see them involved in making a co-op, like with their friends in the neighborhood. They have young people who are starting co-op businesses in schools. And so you can encourage your young people to do that kind of stuff. And so they learn early about cooperating with other people, living with other people. And, you know, I want to do this, but that's going to affect the group this way. And so it's a really good thing, even if it's not just a business, but to do something in their community that might be helpful. You know, homelessness, collecting food for the, you know, people who are immigrants, or, you know, just a number of things that, you know, you can do. So, how are we doing on time? 53. Okay. So, any questions? Because I want to talk a little bit about race and how we can learn a few things on that topic too. You want to have 5 minutes, so you can go do that now. And then if people have questions, we can deal with that.
I have a vendor's table, and there's a lot of things there. I have a list of suggested donations where you can experiment with playing by the exchange rules of barter, or majority rule, the socialist game, or capitalism, making money, or autonomy, which is the recommended game. If we could all play autonomy, we would have a good economy at the world level. The co-op idea, you know, when you talk about shares, you know, that's where I'm at. We need to understand that money is the means by which we communicate cooperation with one another. Money is surrounded by a bunch of mystery and nonsense. And I want to tell you the ABC of money. Okay? If I'm A and I buy bread from B, I give B money. We say I paid for the bread. No, I did not pay for the bread. When B takes the money and buys a shirt from C, that's the pay. The shirt pays for the bread. So what we're doing with money is we are communicating to the people who are not there, to third parties and fourth parties, okay? Now, in order to make that communication accurate and fair and honest, we have to have the money created based on citizenship, not debt. Our money supply was privatized in the United States in 1781. It is mostly privatized throughout the world. It enters as debt, and that requires the compounding growth of debt. We have been in debt in this country since 1781, and now we're in debt to about $80 trillion. When I say us, I don't mean the federal government alone. The federal government is the fire department. And when they want to cut the fire department to put out the fires, you see what happens. We have to have a money supply based on citizenship. So when we register to vote, we are declaring ourselves responsible not only for the government, but also for the society at large, which is to say the economy. So when we register to vote, we receive votes. We should also receive a citizen share of money so that the money comes into existence without a debt. It instead represents my ability to participate as a responsible person in the economy for which I am responsible. And so when we buy something, we're voting. When we take a job, we are voting. And we need to understand that. What we have now is a system where the money supply is created as a debt. It makes the people who hold the debt have larger and larger claims. People in our country have understood the problem since the very beginning. And on the CD, there is an article that reports the meeting of the Pennsylvania Assembly in 1786, where the people there are telling, they're being appealed to restore the charter to the Bank of North America. It was revoked the previous year because they understood this is a bad idea. It's just going to create an aristocracy of wealth in this country. We need to control our own money supply. In the following year, '86, the bank comes back and wants its charter renewed. That assembly denied the charter again, refused to reinstate it. And when you read it, you will see the arguments that they're making are very valid. That year, they won. They did not restore the charter, but the Pennsylvania Assembly was elected every year. So the following year, they got the people they needed to reverse the vote. Okay, when you got majority rule, that's good once in a while, but you can't run all the time with it because you end up with a minority that either controls or gets abused by it. Another article in 1794 by a John Taylor, he's appealing to George Washington, who was president at the time. He's saying this was not the creation of the Bank of the United States. That was done by the first Congress. Bad idea. It's going to ruin the country. There's a congressman, James Jackson from Georgia, February 9th, 1790. Let us take warning by the errors of Europe and guard against the introduction of a system, followed by calamities so universal, though our present debt be but a few millions. In the course of a single century, it will be multiplied to an extent we dare not think of.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up so that we can get back to co-op.
Okay, so go to the table. I can't tell you much more, but the CD's the best deal. There's other things there you can take. Leave a donation so I can continue to promote cooperation.
Right, right. So, you know, cooperation is very natural. It's all in the natural world. You know, naturally we want to help each other and stuff like that. So, if you have any questions, any trepidation, you know, a lot of times people worry because we've been taught that somebody's going to take the money or have more power than us or, you know, abuse the process in a way. And that is a possibility because we've been taught to be only concerned about ourselves and not worried about not be our brother's keeper or whatever. So, you know, you can set up anything to deal with that. You can set up processes to deal with that. And so, Donna, are there any experiences in Venezuela that you've had with cooperatives that say people might benefit from knowledge?
I'm especially interested in educating people about cooperatives in a practical way. There are textbooks written by friends of mine who are lawyers, and boring as hell, excuse me. I mean, it's great. They know the law perfectly, you know, but it's totally boring. So I want to make comic books. I want to make posters. My plan is if I can, you know, I need a Venezuelan artist so it really looks Venezuelan. People can relate to the poster, but if the poster is really beautiful and if the text is really short, and I make a series of these posters and I give one to every cooperative and say, you know, would you like a set? You can put it up on your wall in your workplace. Well, if they put it up on the workplace wall and the next time they have a meeting, they say, you know, they look at it every day and say, can we have an agenda in our meeting before we start our meeting? It says there we're going to have an agenda. Can we do that? Well, I guess we could, you know, so I mean, you kind of, you know, get the workers to force through some of the things that would help every cooperative. And the comic book series, I want to have a comic book series. Yeah, those are the things I really want to do. There are 90,000 cooperatives functioning in Venezuela, and they're still being started because still people believe in them very much. They have one of the reasons that they're so popular is they have a long history. And I know that in other countries, people have, poor people sometimes have these traditions too. So they have a lottery system where you, 10 people all agree to put in $10 a month every month. And then they draw straws, and one person gets the whole $100 each month until everybody's gotten it. So you're putting in $10 a month, and it might be the third month that you look out and you get the whole $100, and then you can buy something that you'd have trouble saving up for. So all it really is, you know, you're still paying the same $100 that you would pay, but a lot of poor people have trouble with the self-discipline of saving. And so that simple system, and almost all Venezuelans know the system because they've all done it at some point, and it helps them to save up to get the things they want to buy. So because of that positive experience and the solidarity that Venezuelans have in general, they still are forming cooperatives. The government at one point was supporting cooperatives, and then they stopped supporting cooperatives. Because cooperatives, as you said, people need to know each other, they need to work hard, and if you make it too easy for people to form a cooperative, then sometimes they don't put enough effort in, the thing collapses out of lack of support. But it's exciting.
Speaking of government, that's one way to think of forming a co-op. And again, you have to be careful that the government doesn't control the co-op. But in New York recently, the city council allocated $1.2 million to help co-ops get started. And we're trying to do that in DC. They did that in Madison, Wisconsin. They got $5 million. And so that's something you can go to your local government with and say, hey, we want to help people get jobs, and we want to do training or something like that. So we want to set up a cooperative that would help people with some local stuff. And so you have to just be clear that, you know, have a mission that they can support. You know, we want to help people with job training or child care. That's something that they would like to do. And so, you know, they could do that, but you just have to be careful. You want to make a point? Okay.
Yes. Do you have any experience in conducting a survey of a community to ascertain need and resources that are available to utilize?
Just from business school, it's a very easy thing to do. You know, you have to word the survey in a way that gets you the answers. You could do it yourself. You know, like figure out what you want, like, you know, hours. What hours would you like childcare? How much money can you afford to pay? The other thing you can look at is a lot of social service agencies will give money to what they call individual development accounts. They will give a needy family, you know, maybe $500, and then they have to raise the other $500. And then you can do a community fundraiser to help them raise that money. But a lot of, you know, that's a thing that you can do, like you can get support from local government or federal government, state government, to do, because you're providing a service to the people. And so they could, you know, support that kind of stuff. There's a really good group in Philadelphia that's done child care stuff. And they can give you ideas. You know, there's lots of rules about how to organize that. But, you know, you can get some information from them. But survey is just, you know, you got to keep it short, you know, clear. And, you know, you can use an Excel sheet to keep tabs of everything and do some analysis. But that's really important when you're setting up a business, to know what it is that people want. First of all, you don't want to have a business that nobody really wants. You know, location, whether people can get there, how much money people can afford to pay. You know, sometimes we live in depressed communities. Like you said, you live in a wealthy community. You can set up a business that caters to people with all that money. And, you know, see what they're willing to pay. Sometimes people are willing to pay a lot of money for something that's really, you know, simple to do. You know, I always felt like a service, especially in DC, you got all these lawyers, they work like all these hours, and they never have, I used to be a legal secretary, they never have time to go pick up their clothes from the cleaners, or take them to the tailor shop, or even get lunch. So there's a service there. People can operate a business catering to rich people who don't want to stand in line at the DMV. Or, you know, you know, organize that and charge them a lot of money because they have it. And, you know, the value is different. Because, you know, they don't want to spend that kind of time. And so you have that time, you know, you can decide that my time is worth $25 an hour or whatever. And charge for your expenses and your costs. You know, so just do a survey, see what people, what they want first of all, what they're willing to pay or what they can pay. You know, what hours, you know, what's the best location. You can do a survey for all of that. Put it on Excel. You know, you can, you know, get a book on how to do surveys, or look at your local university or your SBA, and they have help for that kind of stuff. You can get Small Business Administration. Thank you for making me not use jargon. Small Business Administration. Free. They have free stuff that you can get, and that's the thing that New York did too. They made an office to help people start business. There's lots of free business plans. That's the other thing. You really need a business plan because you have to look down the road. Like, who was it that you had the health thing?
Yes.
Right. So go online and look at what other people have done in that field. And there might even be a industry, what do you call it, trade association, you know, for people who sell health items. And look at what they say people make, what they charge, because you don't want to charge less than what everybody else is charging. You know, you can find a whole lot of information. So any field that you want to go in, be sure you go in and look at the trade association, so that you know you won't be out there charging $10 when everybody else is charging 15, or you know 5 when they're charging 20, because you need to cover your costs, and you need to figure out how much money you want to make. I want to make $50,000. You know, that's a modest amount. You know, in the beginning. And you need a little line of credit if you have it. If you don't have it, think of fundraising. You can set up fundraisers to help fund your business. Crowdsourcing is a big thing now, but you can do small stuff, you know, like bake sales, or make it something that people can really support or make some money. Like, if you got a community where people have money, go to them. A lot of people with money want to do something helpful in the world, their money. Or they could even invest, in a business.
And with my group, we've gone back and forth with maybe wanting to go nonprofit, because there's some people that say they'll give if they get a tax write-off.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that goes, I don't want to go that direction.
Yeah, there are nonprofit co-ops. Wages is for women against women gainful employment security. Look at wages.org is
What is that again?
WAGES, wages.org. They're nonprofit co-op. And so you can look at how they do it. Basically you can put your salary down as, a part of your expense, make your salary. So the difference is in the nonprofit is that you can't make a whole lot of profit. So you have to report your 990, that's the form the government requires. And so the government gets to say, oh, your salary is way out of line. You can't make that much money. You can't have that much profit, or you have to have a certain board of directors. So if you don't want to deal with all of that, and then you do a for-profit co-op, and you can make as much money as you want. You can, charge to the sky, and your salary can be whatever your business supports. So that's the difference. But you also can be a for-profit co-op, but set up a non-profit educational arm or service arm. It's a little tricky. You have to have different people involved, but your education could be a non-profit venture. But you can have it could be an arm of your for-profit business. Yeah.
Can you do the reverse of that and have a 501c3, and then within that have a for-profit organization set up?
You have to be real careful, because the government doesn't want to support anything where you're making a whole lot of money. So I would be real careful about that.
Okay, thank you.
But, yeah, you can set up the nonprofit just because it's a humanitarian goal. You're educating people, you're helping you provide a service. They're not gonna support you to make a whole lot of money.
Can you set up a nonprofit financial credit union under another not-for-profit?
Probably can, but I'm not a lawyer.
Okay.
So you need to talk to a lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's lots, and I'll put some of these lawyers on the list that you can contact.
I'm not sure if it's been asked already. How about a B Corp and then have a 501c3? I'm gonna B Corp.
I don't remember,
Benefit corporation.
yeah, benefit corporation,
It's a for-profit for non-profit, basically non-profit for profit.
yeah. I'm not sure about that, but a B Corp is a option you can use because they are businesses that have a social mission. And so the government can give you a little bit of credit and, you know, make it profitable to do. Yeah, so, but again, check with the lawyer. I'm not sure about the answer about that one.
Can I make a comment about profit? We use it a lot. Someone who's done a lot with co-op says, we shouldn't think that co-ops operate to not make a profit. The question is who owns the profit?
There you go.
And in a co-op, the people who create the profit own the profit. So at the end of the year, in a food co-op, for example, they get a dividend, which is a refund of the profit on the argument that they're the ones that got basically overcharged. So they're getting a refund.
Right, right. And so you can decide you can make, you know, a little bit of profit or you can make a lot of profit. And if you make a lot of profit, you can put that, and you should, if you organize a co-op, that's the other thing. If it's a for-profit
Reinvest.
business, right, reinvest in your business.
Equipment, training.
Equipment, right, that's gonna be really key for tough times, and also, you know, like for marketing and, even some community work that's gonna bring you profit in the long run. Like if you're out in the community and you're doing stuff, well, people say, well, yeah, I like that co-op, you know, I wanna, you know, support them in other ways. And so, you know, it all works to your benefit, but it's really key to reinvest in your co-op. Even for, you know, like slow times. There might be times when you don't make a whole lot, but you wanna have a little nest egg, you know, to tide you over. So don't make that mistake, you get a co-op and you make all that money, and then, you know, you go bust. It's like a savings account in your personal life. Any other questions?
I like that idea of, you know, giving a bit of money, however much, and putting it in a kitty and giving it to someone. Like, we have a lot of artists, you know, in our group, and a lot of them can't afford their media, their instruments that, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, if we all gave a little into the kitty,
Yes.
we could collect enough for this one to get whatever instrument they need.
Right, and you can buy in bulk, some
Is
things.
that something, like if you collected a good amount, is that something you have to turn in to taxes, or is that considered?
Yeah, but
gift?
you get some breaks with co-ops, and I've forgotten exactly how it works. Some co-ops, you can end up being taxed twice, but if you put the money into your retaining account, then you avoid a lot of taxes.
Yeah.
But
That's where accounting grows.
you're right, you need an accountant.
Accountant.
There's a association of cooperative accountants. But yeah, you know, artists, they do galleries. You know, I don't know if your people have places that they display, but you
Yeah.
can buy a gallery, you can buy, you know, equipment, joint marketing. You know, you can do a whole lot of things, you know, to make it cheaper for the people that, you know, you know, people set up even like clinics, you know, acupuncturists or herbalists, massage therapists, they get together and they do, you know, a healing center. You know, there's all kinds of things you can do with co-ops. You know, just get on the internet and see what people are doing. And, you know, there's a lot of resources that I can give you. And I'll just tell you right now, geo.coops, geo.coop, that's the organization I work with. And we have an educational hub that we're developing. But we have like a lot of workshops, PowerPoints, you know, just a lot of information on what people are doing all over the world with co-ops. And so that's a good place to go and do a search to find out a lot of stuff that you might want to do.
You said GOO?
GEO,
GEO.
Grassroots Economic Organizing. And so how much time do we have, Donna?
We're on 12 minutes left.
Okay, so I just want to, put a plug in for being conscious about race and racism or the economy. And, there's a sort of misunderstanding, I think, about America and its ability to be a real democracy and people who really make it in America. God, it's like, where do I start with this? Well, one thing I want to start with is for people to educate themselves about they don't know anything about race. It's not taught in school, and we think everybody can pull themselves up by their bootstrap, and that's not really the case. This society, this economy is designed for a handful of people to get rich. And historically, in the case of African people who were brought to this country as slaves, there's been a systematic putting the foot on the necks, collective necks, to keep people down. There's a book, I don't know if it's called Black Wall Street, but it's about people in Oklahoma who had set up very successful businesses, and that town was burned down, because of racial jealousy. There's like numerous instances in this society where black people who started businesses were run out of business. So I just want to put that out as something that we need to understand in this society and try to work to change, because we cannot build a new world, based on the economic arrangement where people of color, of all colors, are oppressed in order for most people in this country to have a good life. I say good life, but it's like, do you need 10 cars? Do you need a 24-room mansion? We all need to have basic food and water and stuff like that, and not exploit other people.
I was going to say that conspiracy has become a dirty word, and successfully by the people that run the conspiracies, they've turned it into a dirty word. But the fact remains that there's a great effort to first of all, make conspiracies look that they don't exist. Secondly, to put it in the minds of white people or people that are privileged people to look down on people of color or of difficult circumstances and say, well, they're not trying hard enough. When in reality, on the other side, they're playing down on one side, and then on the other side, they're playing it to say, like you said, they're destroying people in poor communities, actively destroying them. It doesn't get out in the mainstream media.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the minimum wage, what is that?
Yeah.
People live off of these things.
I think that it goes all the way back. Even with the 13th Amendment, there's an exception clause of the 13th Amendment, which has been used over and over with millions of black Americans to disenfranchise them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still being used.
Right, why do we
And
have
it's like, there's 3 million blacks in prison, or something like that. Currently, because of the way that the law is set up, that there's no slavery unless you've got a conviction, and if you're convicted, you can be made a slave,
Right.
which is, something that's kind of fundamentally wrong constitutionally. There are things, and like what happened in 2008 with the economy, this was I don't know that it's recognized, that in large, that was a blow against people of color who were having mortgages.
Right. Yeah, and I invite people to really look at the economic situation here. I'm blanking on the book about businesses and wealth in black and white. when that was the way most people created wealth in the society. So there's a whole structural racism, I call it a white supremacist economic system. And we have to really understand that if we're gonna change the world, and if we're gonna set up businesses and structures that help people, we have to recognize what's going on. And I like to think of it as like if you have a sister or a brother who was, taken from their home and taken to another country, forced to eat food that they weren't familiar with and live in a terrain environment they weren't familiar with, beat and terrorized and made to do things. And then they had children. And so they told their children, be careful, don't make waves, and so you grow up, the child grows up with hardly no history of ever being free, and a mother or a father who was afraid. And so they taught their children to be afraid. And, there's this thing about expectation. If you expect a person to fail or be inferior, they will, because that's how you treat them. And so, put that metaphor with the situation of African people in this country. It's just so complex, but I really wish that we can have a real dialogue. I think for white people, there's a guy called Tim Wise. He's done some work around white privilege in this country. It's so insidious. My driving down here, I was like, oh, I have to be careful on the highway. Make sure you don't speed so you don't get stopped by the police because you don't know what's going to happen. Here I am, 60 years old, in this day and age, not feeling free to drive in Virginia or, some other place. Even when I was in Pennsylvania, there's that fear in us. There is all these things that white people don't have to think about. You can walk down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning and not worry about getting stopped by the police and saying, what are you doing in this neighborhood? You can buy whatever you want. So I just want to have a plea for people to have an open heart and look at the situation in a different way. And there's such a thing as internal inferiority and internalized superiority. Look at yourself and think and figure out where you are. What do you really think about what's going on? And as black people, we've been taught that everything that white people do is right and better and good. And we don't even realize that we're operating in that way. And in the same way, white people have been taught that, oh boy, black people they're poor because they chose to live in big cities. Or they're poor because they're lazy. And every time I hear that, I'm like, who was enslaved in this country? Who was doing all the work? And who was sitting on the porch with the mint juleps? And we're lazy? Most black people have to work 2 jobs to make it. There's just so much hypocrisy when we talk about democracy and terrorism. For black people, the police are the biggest terrorists in our communities. When you can't find a job and you want to work, that's a form of economic terror. So, I just want to invite people to look in your own heart, in your own community, and, realize what you know and what you don't know. And, educate ourselves. Let's build a better world. Thank you all. Oh, yes. Did everybody sign the list? I'm going to send the resources out. Wasn't able to get that prepared beforehand, but I will send that out. And please let me know what you come up with, whatever co-ops you decide to do. Any questions you have, I'll try to answer those. And, enjoy the rest of the day.